The city skyline shimmered, a wild jungle of neon and steel under the heavy monsoon clouds. On the edge of a skyscraper rooftop, against a bruised purple sunset, stood 17-year-old Arjun. The rain plastered his dark hair to his forehead, mixing with the tears that traced silent paths down his face. In his hand, he held a crumpled exam paper, and it felt heavier than a stone, heavier than the entire world. The city below was just a blur of lights, a beautiful, indifferent world he no longer felt a part of. He glanced at the paper again, the red marks like small wounds that cut deep into his soul. "Useless," he whispered, the single word snatched away by the wind. Just useless. In the echo chamber of his mind, the voices of his parents and teachers repeated the same lines, a cruel, endless loop. "You have so much potential. Arjun, we expect you to be a topper," but all he seemed to do was disappoint them again and again. He felt like a fraud, a failure hiding behind a quiet smile and a sketchbook full of powerful superheroes he knew he could never become. He leaned forward, just a little. The wind pushed against him, an insistent, cold invitation into the empty air below. The rain felt like a final baptism, washing away the person he was supposed to be. "Arjun," the voice cut through the storm like a beacon. He turned, startled. Mira was there, his childhood friend, completely soaked, shaking, her eyes wide with a mixture of terror and anger. She didn't hesitate. She ran to him and grabbed his arm, yanking him back from the edge with a strength he never knew she possessed. The exam paper slipped from his grasp, landing with a soft splash in a growing puddle. "What are you doing?" she shouted, her voice breaking with the force of her words. "What were you even thinking?" "It's over, Mira," he muttered, his gaze fixed on the ruined paper, the ink bleeding into the water. "I failed. Again. I'm just a burden to everyone. A burden." She almost laughed, a sound of pure disbelief. "You really think a piece of paper decides your worth? You think a few numbers can measure the boy who taught me how to find constellations in this polluted city sky? The boy who spent an entire month building a shelter for a stray cat and her kittens just because they needed a safe place?" Her grip on his arm tightened, her fingers digging in as if to ground him to reality. "Do you think marks can measure the heart of the boy who jumped into a flooded river to save a drowning puppy when we were 10 without even a second thought?" Her words hit him like a physical blow. The fake strength he had been carrying for so long, the fragile armor he wore every day, finally cracked. His knees gave way and he collapsed onto the wet concrete, his body racked with sobs he could no longer contain. The superhero mask he'd been wearing for years fell away. All that was left was a scared, exhausted teenager, drowning not in the rain, but in his own despair. "I'm so tired," he choked out, looking up at her, his face a mess of rain and tears. "I'm so tired of pretending to be strong. Why do you still believe in me when I don't even believe in myself anymore?" Mira knelt in front of him, the storm raging around them. The rain ran down her face, but her eyes were gentle now, filled with a fierce, unwavering loyalty. "Because I know the real you, Arjun," she said quietly, her voice a soft anchor in the chaos. She reached into her soaked jacket and pulled out a small, folded piece of paper. It was a paper airplane, its yellowed edges fragile with age. She unfolded it carefully, revealing a message written in his own childish handwriting from years ago. The words were simple, but they held the weight of a forgotten promise. "One day we will touch the sky." He stared at it, the memory flooding back with startling clarity. A sunny afternoon on this very same rooftop, a lifetime ago. He had made that plane for her, a silly, hopeful promise from a boy who believed in impossible things. "You kept this," he whispered, his voice barely audible above the rain. "I've carried it for years," Mira said, her own voice thick with emotion. "Every time I failed a flight simulation, every time I thought I'd never become a pilot, I'd look at this. It reminded me that the boy who wrote these words didn't know how to give up. It reminded me to keep going." She looked straight into his eyes, her gaze intense and full of conviction. "We're allowed to fail, Arjun. It's okay. We can fail 100 times. We can fall, we can break, we can feel completely and utterly lost. But as long as we're still breathing, we get to hit retry tomorrow." This, she gestured at the sprawling city, the stormy sky, and him. "This is not the end of your story. It's just a stormy chapter." Her words were a lifeline. They cut through the noise in his head, silencing the chorus of self-doubt and failure. Something deep inside him shifted, a tectonic plate of grief and hope, moving into a new alignment. Slowly, with a newfound resolve, Arjun pushed himself back to his feet. He was still shaking, but his eyes were clearer than they had been in months. He walked over to the puddle and picked up the soaked, ruined exam paper. He looked at it one last time. It was just paper, just ink. It held no power over him anymore. It didn't define him. With a raw, angry shout that came from the depths of his soul, he crushed it into a tight ball and threw it out into the storm. He watched it spin away into the rain and darkness, a tiny, weightless piece of his past, finally letting it go. At that exact moment, a brilliant bolt of lightning tore across the sky, flooding the entire rooftop with blinding white light. For a split second, everything was illuminated. Arjun looked down. In the mirror-like surface of a wide puddle at his feet, he saw his own reflection. But he didn't see a failure. He saw a hero, not one of the perfect, invincible ones from his drawings, but a real one, a broken one, a tired one, but one who was standing back up. And beside him, with her hand resting reassuringly on his shoulder, stood Mira. Together, they looked up past the falling rain, past the dark, heavy clouds towards an endless sky, a sky full of second chances. They knew the storm would eventually pass. A new day, a new dawn would come, and when it did, they would be ready for it. If you or someone you know is struggling, please remember that you're not alone and help is always available. You can reach out to a crisis hotline or a mental health professional. Your story is not over. Thank you for watching. Don't forget to subscribe for more stories that matter.